Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Thursday to get thirsty and to quench that thirst with the greatest pro wrestling punditry on the planet. It is our good friend, Paul Pratt, a.k.a. Pollo Del Mar. Paul, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
It's good to be back after a week of holiday time away.
And today is the last day that everybody can go over to Out Sports on Twitter, right? And vote. What?
Yeah. Well, wherever they vote, it's actually not on. It's on Twitter, but they can go anywhere from any app, wherever they can get the internet. I'm actually about to drop it in our Twitch channel, the link to that, if they would like to vote for us. I'm going to do that repeatedly throughout this. We're nominated for Best Podcast.
We got to win, right? Like it's an honor to be nominated, and we thank Out Sports for the nominations, but we got to win, everybody. It's a contest, right? So go over. I think you can vote as many times as you want. I only voted once. So yeah, I only voted once because I felt I would be cheating. I don't want to tell you what to do, though, right? Chicago politics is what it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a long history of people who wouldn't mind stuffing a ballot box. I'm not opposed to that in this instance because it's just a vote for Best Podcast.
Yeah, sure. So again, we're not telling you, wink, you didn't miss it, right? What
wink
to
daily.
do. Wink daily, right? But you know what to do. So the link is right there. Paul put it up for Twitch. Here, I'll copy paste. Can I copy paste? Oh, I can't. Oh, I'm going to make everything. There it is. But for those of you that are watching us, there it is. There's the URL. It's on the screen right now. Write that down.
I wish it was a quick URL.
It's not some long Google Doc URL. All right. Well, we got a great show here today. We got a great into the week. So today on the show, going to air my interview with Medusa. That'll debut shortly after this show. Tomorrow afternoon, Paul has an interview with Nick Aldis that we're going to drop on the YouTube channel as well. And then tomorrow on the Daily, we have another big interview that we're going to debut on this show. So we have 3 bits of a unique content here rolling out in a 48-hour period as we head into the weekend, Paul.
It is. It's a big weekend for pro wrestling in a lot of places. It's also a great weekend for listeners of Wink Daily, viewers of Wink Daily. We're going to have, I'm very excited to see what Medusa had to say with you. She was an incredible backstage presence at NWA Empower, one of the major legends who was helping to produce the matches for that show. I loved her. We had some great time one-on-one as well. She shared some very funny personal stories. And then former 2-time NWA World Champion Nick Aldis and I had a great conversation heading into NWA's big pay-per-view this weekend, Hard Times 2. He's got a very personal match, and he had a lot of things to say about that, as well as other things relating to NWA and the world of professional wrestling. So check him out.
Yeah, and my conversation with Medusa is actually about a documentary she's in called The Flying Greek. It's about Mike Pappas. I'm sure you're familiar with The Flying Greek, Paul, yes?
Mike Pappas is a name that I recognize. I don't know as much about him as I would like to, so I'm glad there's a documentary coming out.
Yeah, and she does the narration for it, and he was a real trendsetter when it comes to the high flyers, and then he became a jeweler in his later years. And so anyway, you're going to get a real... As one is wont to do, right? Uncut gems, as whatever, right? So we have
from the gym to the gems.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, from the gym to the gems. You should have said, you could have sold him that. That would have been a great time. The Flying Greek, I think that's his moniker, but that was a good one too.
It was.
I like both. So. All right, and then also just to kind of put a cherry on the end of the week here, since we're kind of laying out all the content we got coming out Sunday night. After War Games, the Wrestling Podcast will be back. Some late night punditry. Great way to wrap up your weekend. So just really nonstop content here for the next 4 days from Wrestling Inc. Strap in. Get ready for it. And then at the end of this show, for everybody, we'll dive in the mailbag. We're going to look at the recent promo battles that have been going down in pro wrestling, of which there are many. And if you want to get involved with the chat here today, do like Antonio, who's saying hello, or Samantha saying good afternoon, or my plant friend, Nicholas, also saying good afternoon. Gary Lyles, hi, Paul. Finally saw you at drag and you look good. Points up. That sounds nice.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm hopeful it was at LA Fights that debuted last weekend. Hope you'll see it.
That's right, man. Oh, dude, you're busy right now.
I'm very excited too, because we've already announced LA Fights 2 from Game Changer Wrestling's YouTube channel coming on Sunday, January 9th. So mark your calendars.
Man, that's a real quick follow-up. That's awesome.
I think we're going to go monthly.
Yeah. So what's the vibe right now? Real quick before we dive into the news. What's the vibe at LA? What's the vibe backstage at LA Fights? What do you guys want to present right now? What do you see this product is after the first show?
I think that the idea behind this is that the West Coast has been slept on a lot. We talk about East Coast wrestling quite a lot. West Coast has some of the best talent you'll find anywhere. And we're presenting some of the real legends of the sport out here on the West Coast, as well as some of the hottest up and comers. And you get to see these people who may have been overlooked for a long time, these real veterans of the ring, vying for their spot against some really young, hungry, up-and-coming talent. So I think that that's the story behind every match right now, is who is going to find their place in LA Fights, what will come of those matches. And we had Sean Waltman and Ron Funches doing our commentary. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out on YouTube, GCW's YouTube.
Yeah, what a dynamic duo. Yeah, from what I saw, they just, I know those two are really good friends, and they love wrestling. It's a real good feel-good vibe I got from the LA Fights.
Yeah, absolutely. And the action, before you go and before you critique it, yes, the lighting was not the best at all times. I thought it was moody and atmospheric. There were times that I wished it was a little bit brighter so I could better see what was going on. But the action in ring is incredible. We saw in the main event, it was Dark Sheik versus Sandra Moon, two of the most dynamic wrestlers on the West Coast for certain, and they tore the house down. So go check it out. There's people that you're definitely going to want to tap into, because they are the stars of the future, and some are old favorites like Ray Rosas, Lil Cholo, and many more.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. All right. Well, hey, starting hot here today. Backstage exclusive insight into GCW's number 3 promotion in the country, according to WrestleNomics. GCW right now.
I agree.
Expansion plan. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, let's get to it. News you can use. News that'll leave a bruise. We'll start right off hot. So Beth Phoenix took to Twitter earlier today. She announced she's leaving the NXT commentary booth. I think she's got one more show that she's going to go, quote, leave to focus on her family. Samantha here saying, I feel Beth is leaving NXT to join Edge on Raw. So there's going to be a storyline between Miz and Maurice. Them with Miz and Maurice are going to dress up like Edge and Beth, like they did John and Nikki. Okay. My gut says that too. How do you feel about the announcement here from Beth?
Well, I would hope that she does go to Raw, to pursue something like this in terms of an on-air personality. My gut says that as things begin to continue rather to evolve and change with NXT 2.0, if you will, that Beth is something that they may not be wanting to focus on. I don't think that she gives the focus that they necessarily want. We're seeing a lot of the veterans leaving there to make room for younger talent. So that was my first instinct.
Okay.
My second instinct was, damn you, Seth Rollins, for breaking into Beth's home and making her family feel jeopardized. Now she has to be there constantly to protect them. Shut in.
That's obviously what it is, Paul. It's obvious that Seth Rollins' home intrusion angle ran her away back to the kids.
Man, it sucks.
I can see that, right? For me, though, I just think that, especially after the confrontation with Miz and Maurice, with Edge on Monday night, it does seem like Beth by Edge's side right now on TV would maybe be a better use of her. And I think there's a lot of matches that Beth could still have that, people would be intrigued by. I mean, she's still in incredible shape. She's in phenomenal shape right now. So
absolutely.
I know that the whole family line's a thing, but I wouldn't be shocked here within the next 2, 3, 4 weeks she reemerges to help, even the odds with Edge against Miz and Maurice, and we see that rolling into maybe the day one Rumble, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I absolutely would not put that beyond what the WWE creative would come up with and present to us. I think it's a sound use of Beth Phoenix. Beth is a obvious veteran, as you mentioned, in incredible condition, and I think that Beth is somebody who chose to end her in-ring career when she did. She made that decision. And I think that at any point in time, she could come back for one-offs, two-offs, a series of matches, especially against somebody like Edge, against Miz and Maurice. Maurice, not a full-time competitor either, so she would not probably be competing at the level that we would see from if she went into a program with a Becky Lynch.
Yeah, and Beth would go all in. Like, Beth was always, no knock on Maurice, because Maurice was fine. But Beth's a worker, right? And
Yes.
her Hall of Fame induction speech, by the way, way better than I expected. I don't know what I expected, but she's just a very genuinely endearing person. So I think, yeah, you could start off with her alongside Edge, going up against Ms. Maurice. Maybe that spins off into like a singles match with Miz and Edge, and Beth, flies off into her own thing. I don't know, but that I like the pieces involved there, and I could see why they would want to pull her away from NXT if she's going to be doing stuff with the main roster, because obviously her time would be way, way stretched thin if she was going to try to do both.
I just want to also say and point out it could be obvious is that adding a true veteran like Beth Phoenix onto the active women's roster in WWE would be an incredible get. If she decides she wants to go that route, if that's something that she is okay with, if creative is interested in that, this is Beth Phoenix we're talking about, and we could see something very similar or comparable to what her husband went through, which is after a long time away from the ring, the return, the pursuit of championships, one more big hurrah.
Well, also from the world of NXT, a lot of NXT news here actually today. A couple updates from Fightful about some contracts. Well, first of all, apparently there is interest from WWE about re-signing Kyle O'Reilly. WWE approached him about signing a new contract. No word on if the offer has been formally made, but O'Reilly is among a group of top NXT talents that seemingly passed on new contracts offered in late 2019. It was noted that O'Reilly was surprised by his contract expiring this soon, because a lot of WWE contracts end up having time automatically added to them for various reasons, which we'll get to here in just a second. But WWE officials, not surprised with O'Reilly's contract expiring this month, because they looked over the deals this past summer when Adam Cole and Pete Dunne's contracts randomly came up, and they were not aware of that, and then they came due in surprise fashion. Obviously, Adam Cole left. But talking about added time on your contract for various reasons, Fightful also saying Tommaso Ciampa, he is in the boat of having his contract extended due to injury. He missed 7 months back in 2019, so that's why he's not available right now. I would guess sometime around Mania, we're going to be hearing more about Ciampa. So any contract thoughts here, Paul?
In terms of them wanting to keep Kyle O'Reilly on for any reason other than to keep a reunion of the Undisputed Era from happening in AEW seems limited to me. I don't perceive that they have a lot of plans for him. He doesn't fit the mold of the current NXT. He doesn't fit what they presumably want for the main roster. I think that he is somebody clearly very talented, and I'm not trying to I don't want anybody who's listening to this to misunderstand what I'm saying, because I think that he deserves a contract from wherever he goes. But I think that WWE is probably watching the popularity and the teases of this Undisputed Era reunion, and the thought that something that they created that slipped through their fingers, that there's got to be whispers of people who are like, damn, that was a missed opportunity, and for it to burgeon somewhere else, I think would be borderline catastrophic for them.
Hey, I'll say this: in Chicago, the fans were very, very into Cole and Fish as a team, and
Absolutely.
I'm wondering how it looks if end of Q1 next year, AEW looks a lot like NXT. Like, what does that say? I don't know. Like, I feel like there's some like deeper kind of like college thesis to be written about that if it kind of plays out, because we're talking O'Reilly, we're talking about Gargano, right? We already got Cole over there, Fish over there. Dunn, I believe, has resigned. Don't hold me for gospel on that one, but that's a lot of NXT top names that could be floating AEW's way here very shortly.
What this reminds me of a good deal is the fact that we're talking about two promotions that were the only time we ever saw that the WWE and AEW head to head, NXT versus AEW. And, there were people who were split on that because they loved elements of NXT, and it generally revolved around the individuals we're talking about here. And if those individuals jump ship, then the people who loved that product, who are now disenfranchised by NXT 2.0, will have a new place to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very odd to me. Like, I kind of feel like we're gonna get like on an NXT versus AEW guys kind of gimmicker at some point, you know. And it is a lot of guys that just look and act and feel the same to me too, you know. I do wonder if this is the steady stream, you know, how do you include some diversity in there, right? When you have all these big names coming in all at the same time that all kind of look, act, and feel the same way to me, you know. I don't know.
I mean, I can certainly understand that, like from a physical standpoint, they, you know, they have a similar vibe physically for certain. You know, what I am most concerned about is just simply AEW has become overburdened with talent at the moment, and people that we love, appreciate, have become invested in are simply not getting the kind of screen time that they would have before, and presumably will not going forward because they're constantly being replaced.
And I'll say this, just as a kind of little tangent. Somebody who doesn't look and act and feel like the prototypical AEW guy that looked like $1 million on Dynamite last night was Wardlow. That was the best they have ever presented that guy. Just on a jobber mat, fun to watch him just beat people up. I got hints of like Goldberg energy, and that's kind of something Tony Khan hasn't really played around with quite yet, and he loves rehashing kind of stuff. I don't know. It was just a lot of fun, and I would love to watch Wardlow just come out and beat people up here week in and week out.
You know, I think that he is somebody that they have long teased investment in, long teased a future for, and at what point in time they decide to pull the trigger on that, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Back to NXT land here. We will get back to Dynamite in just a moment. But the Observer saying there are plans for WWE to ditch the Cruiserweight Championship in order to change things up. Now, as seen on NXT TV this week, Joe Gacy teased an all-inclusive title coming in. Now, in the past, people in charge wanted to make the 205 weight limit legitimate. Wrestlers were told to cut weight to be involved, but those restrictions—
You're cutting in and out on me, Nick.
Oh no, you're the one that's cutting in and out on me, Paul, right now. You're dead frozen for me. I don't know what the comment section says.
Oh.
Yeah. Are you okay? I'm not getting a weak internet.
Yeah, I'm good.
Thing. All right. You're all right? That's fine. Hey, we're live. It doesn't matter.
I'm good. Yeah, I was just
okay.
I know.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's go.
You're fine. Okay. All right. All right. So there's plans for WWE to ditch the Cruiserweight Championship in order to change things up. Now, seen on the NXT television this week, Joe Gacy teased an all-inclusive title coming in, and in the past, people in charge wanted to make the 205 weight limit legitimate. Wrestlers were told to cut weight to be involved, but those restrictions could be set to change moving forward. Now, Joe Gacy will be challenging for the Cruiserweight Championship this Sunday at War Games. He's going to go one-on-one with the only member of the Undisputed Era that seemingly won't be in AEW anytime soon, Roderick Strong. Now, it's currently unknown if WWE is going to change the title this weekend should Gacy win it. Thoughts, Paul, on Joe Gacy's all-inclusive title and all-inclusive invitational that he did on Tuesday night?
Right. Yeah. You know, I saw the obviously foreshadowing for this a couple weeks ago when they, you know, sort of set this match up, and I'm at a loss for what to say here, because I feel like when they have treated this belt like it had a real value, and that's only been in the last year or so, it has become a legitimate title. You know, when I got to watch, you know, it be surrounded by Legado de Fantasma, and that was phenomenal. All of the matches coming out of that were terrific. I think if they want to make a more inclusive title, I suppose that's fine, but they already have a few of those on the roster. This one seems like something that would be geared towards smaller men, but once again, we've been told that smaller men don't have value.
And see, the Joe Gacy being the one to hold this, there's always kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of rib, right, at the progressives with this, so it's not really all-inclusive. It's like whatever his messed up vision of all-inclusive is. But to me, it feels like a rehash of the Intergender Championship, right, without calling it that. By calling it an all-inclusive title, you're including anybody. Everybody can come for this title. Maybe even not signed talents, right? You could open up that whole forbidden door thing with like men, women, whoever, right? can fight for this title. I don't hate that idea. And I know that NXT, there's rumors they could be moving in a TV 14 direction. I wonder if the intergender stuff is something they feel like they might be able to get away with a little bit more here in the future, which is something AEW is not doing and Tony Khan is not a fan of. But obviously, intergender wrestling down in Mexico and elsewhere has found tons and tons of success. There's obviously a market for it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we will see something to that nature. The thing that I find so, the idea of draping this in like a progressive idea when it's being espoused by a character that has been demonized for these very, he's a heel. Joe Gacy is a heel. So the fact that he has these ideas is demonized. And so the idea of, they're playing this on two sides. Like if they pull the trigger on this, I believe they're going to definitely want credit for it being so, forward looking and forward thinking, but they positioned it as something from a person that is despised for those very thoughts.
I hadn't really even thought about how the press release looks, but you're right. Like there is a chance to both promote progressiveness, but also this like whatever, parody of a progressive is in their mind. I do, when I was watching Dynamite last night and I tweeted out, or I watched it this morning actually, so I watched pretty much everything in the morning, but Bryan Danielson, this guy, I don't know that I've ever seen a wrestler, period, that is more in the zone right now than Bryan Danielson. I mean, just there's no flaws. And to watch him get to do his heel work right now without having to go out there and demonize his legitimate beliefs about the world, needing to be more green, be more open-minded, which was when he was a heel in WWE, pretty much the only way Vince would let him be a heel was you have to go out there and be this kind of evil hippie, which is, once again, what he's going back to here with Joe Gacy. It's so cool to me to watch Bryan Danielson go out there without all of that weird Vince McMahon political baggage that comes along with a lot of his heels and just be a good heel. He's a great heel without having to do it.
Right? It's working, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, again, this is a situation where a lot of what we see is filtered through the politics of either company, honestly, because you just said that the politics of AEW is that they don't like intergender wrestling, and that's something they don't want to dip their toes in, versus WWE, which, no matter how they drape things, behind the scenes is a staunchly Republican, very conservative group of individuals who are running things.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And that is through that filter, the products that we get. So, and speaking of AEW, Dynamite was last night. There was a very scary incident right before the main event as Arn Anderson and Jose were getting a little scuffle as Andrade and Cody were getting into a scuffle. And Arn just took a step back in a space where he thought there was ramp. There was no ramp. He fell straight back into a lighting area and looked like he, took a nice flat bump, honestly, but I don't know if his head got hit. Jose had to pull him out, which was a weird visual because you see Jose helping Arn, which is a human right thing to do, but then Cody kind of gets in front of him, and by the time Cody's away, you see Jose punching and kicking him. That was a scary moment there with Arn.
The interesting part to me about that is if you watch earlier in the show, you can see that Bryan Danielson almost steps off the stage as well. There's very early on, I saw that, and I actually did not see the fall from Arn. I must have looked away or whatever at that exact moment, but I'd seen at one point where Adam Page and Bryan Danielson had their confrontation, and Bryan takes a step back and then noticeably looks down, and his foot is very close to the edge of the stage. So there's a lot of things that come to mind when you think about that. I've been on stages before where the lighting is so incredibly bright, you accidentally glance into it and then you're seeing those flashing stars, and when the rest of it around you on the bottom is black like that, you can't see anything. There's nothing to distinguish. So, and the second thought is poor Arn. We know he's got a only semi-functional arm. So there's not a lot of you can do to necessarily catch yourself or break the fall. I wish the best to him. An icon and a legend that I've always loved. I hope he is in sound physical condition after this.
Yeah, no kidding. And the ramp had kind of a saw blade type cut. It wasn't straight on each side. They kind of had these little rectangles cut in where the lights were going to be. I wonder if that's something that they rethink after this week, like the way that ramp was laid out, because I could see how, like, if you're looking in your periphery, you see the lines of the ramp going one way. And if you don't know there's that cutout or weren't expecting it, like, I think that's exactly what happened with Arn. It's unfortunate. And this is nowhere near the same because one was obviously a way worse tragedy. But when FTR, when Cash ripped his arm coming off over the top, you'd see exactly where all that's wrapped now in the corners, right? Like they're still finding all the little, places things can happen.
and in fairness to everybody there, these are things that they change. Remember, the dynamics of these things change on an ongoing basis, because in one place they may have a covering on something, but who knows, during travel that may get misplaced or something has to be adjusted to fit the new venue. So it's an ever-changing and dynamic environment, and these are live entertainers who are out there, and accidents sometimes happen. I wish nothing but the best for Arn. I'm glad that hopefully maybe they'll put a lip on that thing or something. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a little rubber area thing, something like that. I don't know. But then came the actual main event in Atlanta, coming on the heels of Cody getting booed out of the building in Chicago. Got a mixed reaction in Atlanta, which I was a little surprised by. And then the match ends with Cody and Andrade going through this flaming table that Brandy set up, and Cody's literally on fire as he's doing the pin. And how do you not get a big Cody chant to end the night, which is what they got? What do you think about what we're getting with Cody at the moment, Paul?
Well, one of the things that genuinely stood out to me was this moment on commentary where I can't remember who it was. Somebody on the commentary team says, Cody's getting a bit of a mixed reaction here. And Tony tries to downplay it in such an obvious way. It literally made me laugh because he's like, oh, the boos are always louder than the cheers. And I was like, unless you're only getting cheered, unless you're only getting cheered, and then there's no boos that have to be louder. But to think that people actively boo louder at a louder volume than they cheer for people made me laugh. It's just acknowledge it for what it is. People are going to say, oh, Paul's like a Cody hater. He is a polarizing figure. He is not the baby face that they portray him as. I don't dislike it, by the way. I think that if there's something at work here, the other part of this match, that thing that was on, there was a charred area. I noticed in our run sheet, it said like his back was charred. That was actually the laminate from the top of the table. And when it was set on fire, the laminate, it's plastic. So when he fell on it, it stuck to him. And so when you look at after the fact, you can see there's a whole center area of the table that is the particle board that has been exposed because the wrestlers ripped that off, basically.
Wow. That's disgusting.
It's as soon as I saw it, I knew exactly what it was. And I felt bad because that has to be removed, like that's going to have to be removed, and it's going to take all that skin with it. So, major props for both men doing the flaming table spot. It was, I don't know. I mean, it didn't seem like it needed to be done necessarily, but
Cody's swinging for the fences right now, buddy. Like, I'm going to give you reasons to cheer me. I dare you to boo me. You're going to boo the guy who's literally on fire as he's pinning his opponent. Boo me. I dare you. Like, that's Cody's
I mean, to me, it just sort of, this is not a slight against Cody, actually, but he's stepping into the spot that Moxley has left open right now, which is, being Tony Khan's deathmatch puppet. And so he's doing that, like that spot did not seem necessary. And I laughed. Brandy running in like all disguised, like she's like, I thought, it looked at first like she was doing graffiti on the table. I was like, what the hell is she painting on the table? It literally looked like she was shaking two things and about to like do some bomb graffiti on the table.
Brandy Rhodes is Banksy, is what you're saying.
So it was very unusual for me. I thought that the match was great. I have no problems with Cody going over in this. It just that spot, like one of the things that I will say about professional wrestling is I think big spots like a flaming table spot should make sense in the ring and match psychology. Like, do these two hate each other so much after such a short period of time that they set tables on fire? Do they?
I don't know. No.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Like,
I didn't know if you wanted me to answer that, but no.
No, I mean, it's a rhetorical question, because the fact of the matter is, if you are going to be setting tables on fire, where does one go from there? Like that, a flaming tables death match is usually, or something like that. That's usually a blow off of something really, really big, not this Chicago or this Atlanta street fight. By the way, y'all, in Atlanta during street fights, they set tables on fire. It's the burning tables. That's how they do it in Atlanta. You better guard your table. Better bring a fire extinguisher. Put your husband out at the end of the match.
All right, Paul, I want to thank you for talking all the news of the day with me here on the Wrestling Inc. Daily, and thank you everybody for tuning in and chatting along with us here. And thank you obviously to Medusa, a wonderful interview that's up on our YouTube page now. Antonio here saying I think Cody wants to be like John Cena. BT 332086 saying Cody getting that Cena heat. I don't think they're the same heat. I don't think they're the same heat. No.
I don't think that. I don't think so.
No. I get why people would make that comparison, but I don't think people are booing for Cody the same reason they booed for John Cena. I just don't think it's the reasons. So,
I think it's very. I mean, it could be like some level comparable. I think that people, even when they booed Cena, recognized Cena's hard work. I think that people, when they boo Cody, acknowledge that that he puts in hard work. I think that the distinction between the two, if I were to have to like assess that comparison between Cena and Cody, is that people were fully aware that Cena got brought out and put into his position by someone else. Cena was the vision Vince McMahon had of the face of his community, the face of his product, the face of his show. Cody, on the other hand, we all know is a vice president in this company and presumably has significant say in how he is positioned on product. So there's a lot of this that becomes, how self-serving is this?
Sure. All right. Well, hey, Cody Rhodes, a name I think we'll be talking about here for quite some time, because I don't think this reaction is going anywhere. So today's poll question at Wink Daily, WINC Daily over on Twitter. What is your favorite recent pro wrestling promo battle? Because pro wrestling battles are back. They're very in right now. So was it Eddie Kingston, CM Punk, MJF, CM Punk, Miz, Edge, or somebody else? Well, 300 votes here, 60.9 for MJF, CM Punk, 23.5 for CM Punk, Eddie Kingston, 15.3 for Miz and Edge. What's been your favorite battle on the microphone recently?
I really enjoyed MJF and CM Punk, and I think part of that is because I felt like MJF voiced a lot of the things I was thinking. And I'll tell you, I legitimately chuckled out loud during last night's AEW when he said that CM stands for cook and meth. Yes. Hilarious to me. Yes. Hilarious to me.
And apparently, like, you were not alone. Sports Illustrated's Brasso saying word now is the ring was not the only source of excitement surrounding that segment. There was said to be a locker room sellout backstage with many top talents gathered around to watch and listen to Punk and MJF do battle on the microphone. Tony Khan reportedly had a large group of wrestlers standing behind him at the gorilla position as he watched the segment on a monitor on his desk. So even the wrestlers, and I mean, I wonder how much of this these guys are telling each other right now. Because I feel like the cool thing to say is, don't tell me. Let me react out there, right? But I don't know, man. They're slinging some stuff around here right now. Feelings are about to get hurt for real. I think Feelings definitely got hurt in the Becky Charlotte stuff. That's obvious. Becky is a different person on the other side of that program.
Yes, and I think that with somebody like an MJF, I'm sure that he can do fantastic in a really scripted promo that he's run past somebody and they've line item, vetoed things. But what I know is the reason I like MJF so much is I identify very strongly with that saying whatever comes to your mind and like getting those zingers in. Even if you don't necessarily mean it, it's a punchline and it's something that you say in the moment to get a response. And I think that as much as people are CM Punk is beloved to people, he comes across as being very, very oversensitive and taking himself way too seriously. So I could see how having some of these things said to him would elicit how dare you response from him.
Yeah, like I really hope, in 10 years, we're going to really start to hear the stories of what was going down at this time period, right? Like, we're only just kind of guessing
maybe
in the moment.
5.
Maybe 5. We'll see how quickly the books get written. But, yeah, I don't know. All right. Hey, I want to thank everybody for being
I will tell you that there's, as a person.
Oh, we're losing you again, Paul. Oh, we've lost Paul.
Yep, froze.
You there? You froze.
Oh, sorry. I'm here.
Yeah, you're okay. Man, yeah, you're
Xfinity sucks, y'all. That's all I got to say.
All right. Hey, I want to thank everybody.
Xfinity sucks. If I've frozen.
I want to thank everybody for being a part of the show today. It was a wonderful ride. We're going to be back tomorrow. Like I said, Paul's interview with Aldis will drop in the afternoon over on the YouTube channel. We're going to have a big surprise mystery guest tomorrow on the show to close the week. Very excited about that. And, of course, if you like this show, tomorrow I'll be back. I'm going to be joined by Issa from the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Or Issa. I said it right. Issa. Yeah. Diva. She'll be here co-hosting with me. Next week, TK Trinidad will be back. And I think TK is going to stick around for a little while here on Fridays. And then, of course, you like the Wrestling Inc. Daily Sport, WrestlingInc.com. We're on all the socials. And the Wrestling Inc. podcast is after all the big shows, including tomorrow night after SmackDown and Sunday after War Games. Paul, what do you want to put over here before we wrap up the show today?
Oh, I have a big show at Phoenix Pro Wrestling tomorrow. Tag team title match for the Money, Power, Respect. We're going to be there hoping to collect some more championships. And I am more often than not to Pope's Point of View with the Pope, Elijah Burke. You can check out Pope's Point of View on all his socials. So it's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. And I am at Nick_Hausman over on Twitter. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I will talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked,